In 1893, American socialite and debutante Lizzie Borden was tried and acquitted for murdering her father and her stepmother with a hatchet. If I had been a criminal profiler in 1893 and I was asked or requested to assess Lizzie, perhaps the outcome of the court case would have been different. You decide. The defendant is 32-year-old Lizzie Borden. She was born on the 19th of July in 1960 at Fall River, Massachusetts, in the United States. Lizzie's father, Andrew Borden, the son of a fish peddler, was a self-made man, and he worked himself up to become the president of the Union Saving Bank in Fall Rivers, and he owned substantial property portfolio, and he was the director of 3 major cloth mills. Now, despite his wealth, Andrew Borden preferred a modest lifestyle in living in 92 2nd Street, Fall River, much to the chagrin of Lizzie, who yearned to live on the hill amongst her more affluent relatives. Lizzie had a complicated relationship with her father. She was the youngest of his 3 daughters, with her older sister, Emma, being 9 years older, and Alice, the middle sister, had died in infancy, which leaves us with little Lizzie. Now, when Lizzie was 3 years old and Emma was 9 years old, or Emma was 12 years old, the mother, Sarah, unfortunately passed away. Now, children often experience the passing away of a parent as an abandonment, especially when they're very young. So clearly the father's sympathy was tilted more towards the young toddler who had lost her mother than to her older sister. Taking Sigmund Freud's theory on the Oedipus psychosexual development into consideration, when Lizzie entered the Oedipus complex phase at the age of 3 to 4 years old, she captured her father's doting attention, and she had no mother to compete with. Lizzie was triumphant in her Elektra complex. At the age of 6, according to Freud, children should then exit these phases, and the girls should then identify with a mother figure. However, Lizzie had no living mother figure, and it was at this critical age of 6 that her father decided to marry Abby Durfee Gray. And many said because he needed a housekeeper and he needed a babysitter for his daughters. In any case, Lizzie suddenly had competition for her father's affection, and she was not easily going to relinquish her hold on her father's emotions to a strange woman. There were rumors that Andrew had an incestuous relationship with his daughters, and these were never confirmed nor refuted. It was a taboo topic discussed during the Victorian era, but it was not impossible. Now, Carl Jung coined the term Elektra complex, referring, of course, to the Greek tragedy by Sophocles of Elektra, the daughter of King Agamemnon, who conspired with her brother Orestes to kill Clytemnestra, who was Agamemnon's wife and who actually killed Agamemnon. Lizzie Borden also committed matricide by killing her stepmother Abby, her rival for her father's affection, but also her rival for her father's riches. Lizzie made no secret about it that she believed that her father had married down and that Abby only married her father for his wealth. Lizzie was an upstanding young debutante and a member of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, which sought to curb the consumption of alcohol. And she was also a member of the Young People's Society of Christian Endeavor, whose objective was, and I quote, to promote an earnest Christian life among its members, to increase their mutual acquaintance, and to make them more useful in the service of God. She was also a Sunday school teacher, and all in all, she was considered a very pious young woman. However, Lizzie was not the model daughter the society was led to believe. In 1891, the year before the murders, an amount of cash and jewelry was stolen from the master bedroom. It was an open secret that Lizzie was suspected as the thief. She'd also been accused by now by shop owners or local merchants for shoplifting. Now, although Andrew was frugal, there was absolutely no need for any of his daughters to shoplift. Kleptomania is the inability to resist the urge to steal items, usually for reasons other than personal use or financial gain. The underlying objective of any obsessive-compulsive act, as kleptomania is that it serves the purpose of distracting the ego from a more sinister wish or desire lurking in the subconscious. It provides a safer outlet, and it provides excitement, diverting the adrenaline. Hidden in Lizzie's subconscious was the taboo desire to murder her father and her stepmother. Stealing cash and jewelry also fits the modus operandi of a spoiled princess, the Infanta syndrome, to whom money, appearance, and status are all important. One should remember that she was openly dissatisfied that the family did not reside in the affluent suburb of the hill where she felt they belonged among her more affluent relatives. She regarded her stepmother as a gold digger. And caught up in her narcissistic princess mode, even as an adult, Lizzie would not have the maturity to recognize Andrew's existence in life extended beyond his role as a father, but that he also, as a man, had a natural need for a woman, whether she approved of his choice or not. At the times of the murders, Lizzie was 32 years old and she was considered a spinster. Now, why was Lizzie not married? She was clearly a wealthy heiress and an attractive woman. Some speculated that she was gay, but this was never proved. Or could it have been that Lizzie Borden, who had been her father's darling once, had no desire to leave the comfort of her nuclear home to run another man's household or forfeit her claim to her father's riches? Andrew's wealth at that time would have amounted to the equivalent of $10 million in today's terms. Tension between Lizzie and her stepmother brewed when Andrew not only gifted some real estate to his family members, but he also gave the title deeds of a house to his wife, and her sister benefited from this. Now, the Borden sisters, Lizzie and Emma, was quite upset about this and they resented it. And then Andrew agreed that he would sell them the property they'd lived in when their mother died for $1, and they resold that to him for $5,000. Tension leading up to the murders escalated in 1892 when Andrew killed many of Lizzie's pet pigeons with a hatchet in the barn. This was the only evidence of a violent act witnessed by Lizzie committed by her father, but it opened a portal. In the weeks before the murders, both sisters left her on vacation to cool down because there was a heated family argument. 1 week before the murders, Lizzie returned, but she stayed in a boarding house for 4 days, perhaps because the inhabitants of the Borden home were all sick because they'd eaten mutton that was left on the stone. However, eventually she went home. Now, the evening before the murders, on the 3rd of August in 1892, John Morse, Lizzie and Emma's maternal uncle, arrived, and he had business with Andrew, and he was invited to stay, and he slept in the spare bedroom. The following morning, Morse left early to conduct business, and around 9 a.m., Andrew left for his daily promenade. Between 9 a.m. and 10:30 in the morning, Abby went up to the spare bedroom to make up the bed, and this was here that she was attacked by somebody wielding a hatchet. She turned her head away, and the hatchet caught her above the ear. Clearly, this attack was aimed at her face. Now, attacks obliterating the face are usually very personal. And as she fell face down, she was further hacked 17 times at the back of her head. This is overkill. And this signifies a very personal hatred. It indicates an uncontrollable subconscious rage. So the suppressed desires of the subconscious are finally erupting in a volcano. When Andrew returned from his walk at about 10:30, the maid, Maggie Sullivan, let him in, and he decided that he would have a nap on the sofa in the drawing room. Now, if an intruder had somehow entered this home without being seen or without being heard when he hacked Abby to death, would he wait for 90 minutes for Andrew to return, knowing that both Lizzie and Maggie were somewhere about in the house, and that Morse could return at any moment? What would his motive have been for killing both Andrew and Abby? So the sleeping Andrew was also first attacked with a hatchet in his face because it severed his one eye. And then, in a frenzy of bloodlust, he was hacked 10 or 11 times further. Again, this is overkill, signaling personal hatred. Then Lizzie called up to Maggie, and she told her that her father had been murdered. And shortly after, the family surgeon, who was living across the road, arrived, and he pronounced Andrew very much dead. The neighbors arrived, and then they discovered Abby's body on the second floor. The neighbors trampled all over the crime scene, and Lizzie dispatched them to run errands. Now, why would she want to be alone with the bodies of her murdered parents if an intruder could still be lurking, unless she committed the murders. The police found no forced entry nor signs of burglary, but they bungled the processing of the crime scene. They didn't conduct a proper search of Lizzie's room, nor did they collect her clothing or the hatchet that was found in the cellar on that day. Yet, by rule of elimination, Lizzie was eventually arrested. During her trial in 1983, the courtroom, where men reserved all the legal power, she presented herself as a helpless maiden. She appeared in a tightly corseted black flowing dress. In one hand she held a bouquet, and in the other hand she held a fan, the typical innocent maiden. Lizzie fainted when the skulls of her parents were displayed in the sensational courtroom drama. Lizzie's testimony was controversial and contradicting, and quite amateurish. But she attributed this to that she was under the influence of morphine, a sedative that was given to her just after the murders. However, she wasn't that sedated to prevent her from burning a dress which the police had failed to seize. Due to lack of evidence and so many contradicting testimonies, including Lizzie's, she was finally acquitted by an all-male jury. Then Lizzie and Emma finally moved to the Hill, where they wanted to stay. Since Abby had died first, her estate reverted to Andrew, whose estate was then inherited by both his daughters. Lizzie Borden never got married nor divorced. She entertained a bohemian friendship circle where she was treated like a celebrity, not like the pariah that she was in her own community. Her pious mask has dropped, and the spoiled little princess had pulled it off. At the time of her death, age 66, Lizzie Borden's estate was worth over $250,000, almost $6 million today. She owned a house on the corner of French Street and Belmont Street, several office buildings, several shares in utilities, 2 cars, and a large amount of jewelry. She no longer had to steal it. Negative father pathology, manifesting in the female psyche, is labeled by psychologists as puellas, a Jungian term referring to the eternal girl child, or as infantas, the spoilt princesses, or the Elektra complex, a woman in love with her father. But all of them point to a woman refusing to grow up and facing her adult responsibilities. When a father withdraws his love for his daughter and he transfers it to a new object of his desire, the daughter, especially if she's still a little girl, can experience this as a primal abandonment, and she needs to fill this void with money, because men express their love for women by materially providing for them and showering them with gifts. So money becomes a substitute for love for puellas, women refusing to grow up. And as in the case of Lizzie Borden, legendary, some will kill for it. Others will engage in long-term acrimonious divorce battles, claiming ridiculous sentiments far beyond reasonableness, symbolically decapitating the men, as legendary Lizzie's literally did to her father. The archetype of the puella wife tearing her ex-husband apart, limb from limb, committing sparagmos, like this mythological Dionysus Maenads, and devouring his energy in a drawn-out court battle, substituting the loss of his attention and love with her boundless greed for money, which she hopes will fill the void of abandonment initially created by her father, is firmly embedded in history, mythology, and religion. If you like our videos, please give us your thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel where we present you with an eclectic, intellectual, and professional approach to the topic of criminal profiling. If you are really interested in an in-depth analysis, then please join our Patreon community.